Okay, good morning, everybody. It's 8 a.m. I'll call the meeting of the Madison Metropolitan Sewerage District Commission to order. We have a quorum. We don't have anybody participating virtually. Ezra is missing today's meeting for work purposes. Welcome to all of our guests. Cassie, do you need to go through the virtual meeting guidance?
Good morning, commissioners, members of the public, and staff. To help us have a smooth meeting, I'm going to review just a few decorum rules for all. While the commission and staff are in person, we are still offering a Zoom option so members of the public can attend. If you are attending virtually and would like to speak, you can do so during appearances by the public. As a reminder, this meeting is being recorded and streamed live on YouTube, and the public chat has been disabled, but you can still send messages to the host if need be. Finally, commissioners, please use your microphones while speaking and make sure your voice is directed towards the mic. When you're not speaking, please ensure your mic is off so others can utilize the mics. As a reminder, only 3 of the table mics can be live at a time. Also, please state your name before speaking for those who may be joining us via Zoom. Those are the decorum rules of the District Commission. Thank you for following them, and let's have a great meeting.
Okay, thank you, Cassie. Do we have anybody attending virtually, by the way? No. Okay. That will move to announcements, of which we do not have any. Marty, you're going to introduce Samantha Wills, Solid Waste Acceptance Program Coordinator.
Yes, I am. Thank you, Commissioners. So, good morning. I'm pleased to introduce with me Samantha Wills. She's our new Solid Waste Acceptance Program Coordinator. And Samantha brings with her a strong passion for protecting water resources, and she has a strong technical background related to the assessment of waste materials and chemicals. And so her familiarity with the rules and regs and her ability to communicate with a lot of different people is going to be a great asset to our team. And we're really looking forward to her maintaining this high-level customer service with our solid waste customers and moving the program forward, making key process improvements to help fill data gaps and address some key policy issues around fats, oils, and grease, and PFAS. So in her own words, she's from Iowa. Don't hold that against her. But she did move to Madison, has been here for a while. She has a major in chemistry and minor in physics and biology. And she has worked in the hazardous waste chemical disposal for over 8 years at the University of Iowa and Wisconsin. And more recently, she comes to us from Solid Waste World in the Dane County landfill. So in her free time, she loves to do disc golf, kayak, and explore Wisconsin state parks and travel to our national parks and monuments. So help us welcome Samantha to the team.
Okay, thank you. I would make a comment about disco, but I won't. Nathaniel Hayden, you're going to introduce Tom Phillips, an operator.
Yes, thank you. Tom Phillips, he previously had worked in an industrial setting for recycling, so he's a lead operator there and an extruder operator. So ultimately, he'll settle in to be one of our night operators. So right now he's getting training and getting some experience in wastewater. But from what I understand, the smells aren't all that different than recycling. So, thank you.
Thank you. Well, no disco buff there. Okay. Let's see. Any appearances by the public? I don't see anybody. I don't see any hands raised because nobody's. And we'll move on to the consent calendar where we have 5 items: approval of the minutes, cash statement capital. We have 1 sewer extension plan, transaction amount for articulating boom, and then finally authorization of increased total project cost, miscellaneous treatment plant projects. That was about a $2,000 item, and they threw it. It was kind of a cleanup item, I guess, the way Eric explained it to me. Do we have any questions on anything? Seeing none, do we have a motion to approve the consent calendar?
This is Commissioner Freeze. I'll move approval.
Motion by Commissioner Freeze, second by?
I'll second it. Murphy.
Second by Commissioner Murphy. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? None. Motion carries. Okay, it takes us to topics. Rita Neff is going to give us an update on our 2024 Compliance Maintenance Annual Report, also known as CMAR.
All right, so the CMAR is a requirement from the Department of Natural Resources through the Wisconsin State Legislature. NR 208 describes the compliance maintenance requirements for wastewater treatment plants, including Nine Springs. Okay, can you hear me now? All right. The chapter implements Statute Chapter 283 on pollution discharge elimination, which upholds our permit requirements. The legislation requires the submittal of the CMAR as well as the certification of a resolution statement by a governing body verifying the completion and accuracy of the documents submitted. The CMAR has the following purposes. It exists to protect public health and the environment, helping to initiate action that will avoid water quality degradation and permit violations. It also serves as an educational tool because it aids in facilitating discussions which promote owner awareness of treatment plant needs. By identifying treatment areas that need improvement, the CMAR serves to maximize the useful life of the facility and improve performance through implementation of better O&M practices. Finally, the CMAR helps to promote a formal planning, design, and construction of new projects in the treatment facility and collection system. It's important to note that the CMAR is not wastewater treatment plant specific, and it is not intended to be a punishment for poor scores. It is also not intended to report on new data or compliance issues, since it provides a review of the previous year. So we're about halfway into 2025, but this is only reviewing 2024. Nothing from this year is going to be included. The questions on the CMAR aim to identify average performance throughout the previous year through reported values from monthly discharge monitoring reports, as well as broad facility goals and plans for upgrades. Getting into the actual contents of the CMAR report, the district's report contains sections for influent flows and loadings, as well as effluent quality for biochemical oxygen demand, BOD, carbonaceous biochemical oxygen demand, CBOD, total suspended solids, TSS, ammonia, and phosphorus. It also includes sections for biosolids quality and management, staffing and preventive maintenance, operator certification and education, financial management, and sanitary sewer and collection systems. Once each of these sections is completed, a grade is generated on the DNR's website based on the responses submitted. The overall scores are assigned in a similar format to typical school report cards. However, certain violations are worth more than others and have a disproportionate impact on the overall score. In 2024, the district received a grade point average of 3.51, with 8 out of 10 sections receiving A grades. Only the influent flow and loadings and biosolids management sections deviated from this, receiving B and D scores, respectively. In alignment with the purpose of the CMAR, sections that received a grade worse than B, along with any overflow instances, must be explicitly addressed in the resolution document to improve performance in these areas. Because of this, we are going to spend the remainder of this presentation reviewing information from the sections where issues were identified. The main area where the district lost points on the CMAR is the biosolids management section. Any single instance of over-application of nitrogen automatically requires a score of D in the biosolids section, regardless of the quantity of nitrogen that was actually over-applied. The methods for calculating nitrogen application rates have been documented and provided to DNR through the district's sludge management plan. These methods allow us to report the most accurate information possible and minimize as much as possible the over-application. Further discussion and refinement with the DNR in 2023 allowed the district to reduce over-applications from 7 in the 2023 hauling season to 5 in the 2024 hauling season. This process will be further improved by the new database currently under development that will help fix data management challenges to ensure that truckloads and fields being applied on are properly connecting with the current database structure. When the data doesn't connect correctly, it can lead to errors in calculation rates. The next area we're going to look at is the collection system section. Despite the fact that it received an A grade, multiple overflows were reported on this section for the 2024 CMAR. Treatment facility overflows, or TFOs, are typically less severe than sanitary sewer overflows, or SSOs. This is because TFOs are overflows that occur at a location within the wastewater treatment plant, while SSOs are overflows that occur from a collection system and have a greater chance of interacting with the environment. The Commission is notified of the overflows when they occur. They're summarized again here to provide an annual picture. And you can see a comparison for TFOs and SSOs that we've had since 2018. In 2024, the district had 3 TFOs and 2 SSOs. During each sanitary sewer overflow event, immediate corrective action was taken to mitigate the problem, and long-term preventative actions were taken if possible. The March 7th SSO occurred due to a valve failure during scheduled maintenance. To correct this, overflow water was vacuumed out of the area and the valve replaced as soon as it was safe to do so. The April 26th SSO occurred when a seal on a Vector truck being used for manhole preventive maintenance sprung a leak. The contents of the truck were then decanted back into the manhole, and the truck was taken to be inspected. The remaining overflows that happened in 2024 were small treatment facility overflows that occurred on-site and did not pose a threat to human health or the environment. The April 13th TFO occurred due to an isolation valve being left open on the dissolved air flotation system, resulting in solids escaping an access hatch. Isolation valve was closed when the problem was identified, and operational practices were adjusted to avoid future issues. Capital improvements to rehabilitate the aging infrastructure on this system are also being considered that would help prevent future issues. The September 4th TFO occurred due to the grit snail augers drain line not being reopened after maintenance work. This prevented system flush water from draining properly when it was restored to service, and some of the overflow spilled out of the building. The drain line was opened immediately when the problem was identified. The October 5th to October 8th TFO occurred due to a pinhole leak in an on-site return-activated sludge pipe. It was determined that the leak was caused by pressure buildup in the pipe when it was sealed for maintenance. To prevent another overflow, the leak was repaired. The damaged section of pipe was later removed. The last section I want to touch on is the influent loading section. The district received a score of B due to 4 months with BOD loadings above 90% of the design BOD loading and 1 month above 100% of the design. On that chart there, you can see that upper bound green line is the 100% of design, and the lower bound blue line is 90%. You can see that we've been trending upwards for BOD loading since about the beginning of 2021. 2024 is the first year that we have had a month where we were above 100% of the loading, but it is not the first time that this has been flagged on the CMAR. In 2022, the district exceeded 90% of the design load in 8 different months and received a score of C on the CMAR. And the district also exceeded 90% of the design load for 3 months in 2023 and 2 months in 2021. Neither of these were enough to drop the CMAR. The current design was constructed as part of the liquids treatment project that was completed in 1998, although the updates at that time were intended for phosphorus removal and not BOD loading. So the most recent updates to BOD capacity are 28 to 40 years old, with an expected design life for planning of 20 years. So it is not surprising that the facility is reaching capacity. In order to accommodate the increased loadings, the district has undertaken a liquids processing phase 2 upgrade. One of the major focus areas of this project involves increasing BOD loading, design BOD loading. Design for this project started in 2023, and construction is expected to be completed by 2028. Once construction is complete, the district will be able to accommodate the increased loads without risking exceedance of design parameters. So to summarize, for the 2024 CMAR, the district received an overall GPA of 3.51. As part of the purpose for completing the CMAR, responses are required for any section receiving lower than a B and any overflow instances. The only affected section was biosolids management, and the district is already taking action to address this section. To further prevent instances of nitrogen overapplication, the district continues to refine its QA/QC procedure, and a new database is being developed to help fix data management issues associated with biosolids application. The district has also taken action to prevent overflow recurrence. Liquid processing improvements phase 2 is intended to address the increasing BOD loading. And the final steps to complete the 2024 CMAR include approving and certifying the resolution to the above items, as well as submitting the report by its due date of Friday, June 30th. With that, I will now request approval for the resolution 2025-06-12-R4, accepting the compliance maintenance annual report and the required response actions. If there are any questions, I will take them at this time.
Okay, thank you. Anybody have any questions? Greg, then Dan.
So, thank you. With regard to the influent grade that you got, I think it was a B4, right? So if I understand this, what the DNR is really doing is flagging you. You don't have any control over what you're getting, really, right? It's just telling you that you're outside your design parameters. So the question I have is, let's say you weren't doing the upgrade that we are doing, that we have been in process of for the last 2 years, do they at some point say, well, you can't accept any more sewer extension permits if you are exceeding, your limit? And then my second question is for Alan, who I see sitting in the back. Did the increased BOD load, I don't recall it ever resulting in an outcome, meaning our discharge permit where we were outside of our parameters, right? So we might be outside design parameters coming in, but I don't recall us being outside the parameters of what's coming. So that's a two-parter.
Yeah, so It depends. If the trend continued and we kept getting more and more months above the design condition, eventually the DNR would come to us and ask, so why is this happening? What are you doing about it? Because that is not the goal.
Yeah, if it got sufficiently, Alan Groom's operations manager, if it got sufficiently bad, you would get into kind of what they call consent decree territory, and that would be a possible outcome of that. You couldn't take any more expansion of that from increased load. But the CMAR purpose is really just kind of to bring the regulatory agent or the governing body's attention if there's factors that are, let's say you have a situation where no action is being taken. It's to kind of bring it to the governing body's attention that, hey, you need to be thinking about doing something, and as it progresses, to initiate that action. Your question on impacting performance, Commissioner Freeze, I don't think we haven't directly had any issues with meeting our effluent regulatory numbers. We do see more and more in the summer months where we have struggled to meet, and you'll see it as you go through. You may recall seeing it in past. I'm positive you'll see it again this year. Our ammonia discharge numbers will excurse up a little bit, things like that. So there are signs that we're being pushed on the plant. From a day-to-day operation standpoint, we see days where it's like we're just not able to deliver quite enough oxygen to the tank to meet the optimal conditions we're set up for. So, and that's part of what we're, since we're already in progress, we're doing what this report would be urging the district or the governing body, if the district weren't doing anything, to move forward and take action to correct this before it becomes before we get into the compliance decree, consent decree, I guess is the word I want, territory. So I don't know if that answers your question.
It really does. Thank you, Alan. And what I recall seeing in your monthly reports, right, is we are sometimes in the summer we are trending outside of your you have that tight band, right, the whatever that is, the rolling 3-year average or whatever, where we're outside of that, but we're still well below our permit limits, right? I've always seen that because does flag you obviously. You see the trend changing. So okay, that helps me a great deal. Thank you.
Commissioner Pult, the area that you got the D in, did you have that D in 23 also?
Yes.
Do you expect that D in 25? Because, have you...
That one I'm going to refer to Marty.
the question is, have you already failed, not if that isn't the right word, but have you already exceeded the limits on putting stuff on fields?
So this is Marty Griffin, Director of Ecosystem Services. So for the category of biosolids, as Rita pointed out, one instance of over-application will drop you to a D score. And I'm not about to sit here and guarantee you next year we will not have an instance of over-application. And the reason why I'm saying that is because our approved methodology from DNR to calculate our nitrogen application rates relies on data that we cannot get in real time. So we're not using real-time data to calculate the application rates, but when we submit our reporting to DNR, we have to use the data that comes during the time we haul, which is a real-time data point. So there's a disconnect there about our methodology and what we actually can accomplish. So that's why I typically see limitations on what we can get the score in. Don't know that yet because we haven't calculated that reporting information, but we don't know.
Hopefully in the future you can get more real-time-ish.
Yeah, so that's one of the things we're actually investigating and trying to look into. How can we get faster data to get better information quickly? Biosolids are challenging for analysis, just different than other types of fertilizer, manure type of stuff. So the science is catching up to what we need. So we're still working on it, but that is our goal.
Hopefully. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? Seeing none, do we have Badre?
Commissioner Lankela, thank you very much, President Owell. I have a question for actually legal counsel to you as well. working for DNR, I'm actually in charge of the CMAR application that gave the grading, the IT systems that give those ratings. So am I actually recused from bringing this one, or?
What exactly is your role with that?
Well, software, yep, the one that gave you all the gradings based on the numbers that you entered. Chief of application architect there for gives you these ratings.
I personally don't think it's a conflict, but you're always free to opt to abstain if you were to do that.
Okay, thank you. Yep, I'll try to abstain.
Okay, so, do we have a motion to approve the, CMAR? The, cloud return off here.
Commissioner Lyle, yes, I'll make a motion.
Motion by Commissioner Larson, second by,
Commissioner Clark, I'll second.
second by Commissioner Clark. Any further discussion or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? None, motion carries. Okay, thank you. That will take us to update on the district tour program.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Kathy Lake. I'm the Pollution Prevention Manager here at the district, and I'm joined today by Emily Jones and Catherine Harris, our Pollution Prevention Specialists. And we're here to talk about the next two agenda items, the district tour program and the bathroom activation at the Madison Public Market. These programs are part of our outreach and education programs at the district. And these are really important because the district and the community rely on each other. The community relies on the district to take the water that they use each day, to convey it, to treat it, to return it safely to the environment, and protect the local water bodies. They also rely on us to do this 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. They need us, but we also need them. We rely on the community, the individuals and businesses in the community, to responsibly use the sewer system. We need people to know how to use a sewer system, and then with those hidden behaviors, those day-to-day actions, to do the right thing. We also rely on our community for sustainable funding. Outreach and education helps the district meet our goals. When we look at our district performance indicators, when we can prevent pollution, have resilient long-term solutions, and have a system that performs, we can meet regulatory compliance. When our community understands the nature and the impact of the district's work and the dedication of all of us to that, we can build public trust. When we have support for the funding levels necessary for the resilient performance of our system, and we can have fewer maintenance issues from the misuse of the sewer, we can improve our infrastructure reliability. And when we make those connections and inspire the next generation of workers, we can improve our workforce going forward for generations. The district has long understood the value of outreach and education. For over 30 years, there's been segments in our annual report talking about the outreach and education efforts that the district has undertaken each year. We've been out in the community. We've had a tour program for over 30 years. We've been in the schools. We've been in the community. We've been making those connections. And we found that outreach and education works. We're able to build and raise awareness, make connections. We're able to make the invisible visible. We're able to have people understand what we do and why we need them. We also, as we make connections and we meet people, we're able to understand their perspective, what's going on, and what the barriers are to some of the actions that we need to have happen. And once people meet us, they can't really forget us. So at this point, I would like to turn it over to Emily Jones to talk about one of our longest standing outreach and education programs, our tour program.
All right, good morning. So Emily Jones. I'm a pollution prevention specialist, but I also have coordinated the tour program here as long as I've been here almost, since 2015. But as Kathy mentioned, the tour program predates me by decades, because this is really a cornerstone of our outreach. So this number here is just looking at those 30 years of annual reports that Kathy mentioned. We've recorded over 33,000 people visiting the plants. So there's probably more before that, but this is just taken from the annual reports. Tours are a valuable experience for many reasons. One is that visitors can learn about the process. Kathy mentioned making the invisible visible. We have the luxury in this community of not having to think about our waste. It just disappears. But obviously it doesn't just disappear. There's a lot of infrastructure and a lot of hard work that goes into making that luxury a reality, that we have that reliable sanitation. So people can see that process, learn about it, actually understand what transforms wastewater into clean water and other resources. And it's not just the infrastructure. Another value is that people can meet the people, put a face to the district, understand staff, understand careers here, understand the who of the district. And valuably, for some of the reasons that Kathy mentioned, this is an opportunity to directly reach the community with water protection actions. So on our tours, we talk about not flushing things that shouldn't be flushed, reducing salt, properly disposing of hazardous waste, those messages we need to get across to protect our compliance and protect our system. Staff tour guides are really ambassadors for the district, speaking to putting a face to the district. For decades, we've had staff from multiple work groups and departments who share their knowledge and their perspective on tours. We have staff from ecosystem services, from HR, from operations, all across the district, from engineering, that lead tours depending on the needs of that group. This gives a positive first impression of the district. We have that transparent connection with the community on tours, and we can meet the needs of different visitors based on their areas of interest and their different backgrounds, which is important because we get people here from a lot of different backgrounds. This is a partial list of the types of groups that have come on tours according to our records. So we've got really elementary tours. We have elementary school groups that come here, and they just need to understand where dirty water goes and how pipes work. And then we elevate that all the way up to post-secondary students and wastewater professionals, industry groups who get into the really, really technical details. The district is a leader in many ways in our operations, our treatment, and our projects, and so a lot of people in the industry want to come here on tours to see how we do what we do. You can see here, I won't go through all of these, but we have trades groups. You can actually see in this picture some of our electricians leading a group of electrical apprentices from Madison College who wanted to see our electrical systems in a utility setting. We have environmental groups, watershed organizations, businesses. Also, our customer communities and industries, our permitted industries will come here to understand that relationship better by seeing the plant in person. Now, the tour is memorable. So it's a very sensory experience, as you can imagine. If you've been on the tour, you know what the tour is like. And we've actually had teachers, repeat visitors. There's a lot of recurring field trips that will come basically every year. And a few years ago, we had a focus group of teachers to ask them, what's the value of this experience to you? Do you want us in your classrooms? Do you want to keep coming to the plants? And they're very emphatic. We want to keep coming to the plant. It's really valuable to see, to smell, to get that whole memorable experience. And so we're making some enhancements right now to make that experience more memorable, to really make those connections to why we do what we do and what people can take with them after they leave the tour. If you've been on a tour prior to 2020, this looks familiar to you. This is our fish room in the effluent building. It's a very literal term because that fish tank gave the room its name. That is treated effluent that's diverted into that fish tank. It would support panfish. So we'd have bluegill and sunfish, things like that, living in our effluent immediately after treatment. And so the kids would crowd around, press their faces up to the glass because it's very exciting, it's very memorable. And we can use that point to stress this water was going down the drain just a couple of days ago, and this is going to be habitat right away. So it's a really visceral connection to the importance of high quality wastewater treatment. But during updates to the effluent building and during the pandemic, the fish room was emptied out. So we have an opportunity now to start from a blank slate to turn this into that. So right now we're working on making this a more pleasant, aesthetically and educationally space for tour visitors. You can see we have the return of the fish tank. We'll also have some educational posters along the wall that explain the next step for that water, make the connections to the overall water cycle and downstream waters, and what people can do to protect those habitats and protect water downstream. Another improvement that we're making that we have the opportunity to do in this effluent building project is to revive the lab experience. As you can imagine, we have a lot of groups that come here that are very interested in science. We have AP environmental students, biologists, chemists who come and they want to understand the wastewater testing, the science of what we do. Prior to 2020, we would take groups into the lab. And this was a really good point on the tour to talk about treatment, to see the chemists working in the background, to talk about permit compliance and some of the tests we do. But since first floor remodel, we don't take tours into the lab anymore. So to provide that experience for tour groups, there's also a lab in the effluent building. So this has been sitting dormant. This was a biology lab in the past, but really there's nothing major going on down there right now. So we can revive that, transform that into a learning lab for tour visitors. So there's a rendering of how that lab is going to look. So we can show demonstrations of water testing or otherwise supplement our tour experience by giving some more hands-on or visual experiences. The schedule for those effluent building improvements in the lab and the fish room so that's ongoing. That is taking place right now. So construction is set to be complete this summer. And so stay tuned because we're working to set up an open house and tours later this year to really show those enhancements off to the community. Now, the reason we invest in tours is because tours are a community asset. And I'm going to let the words of some tour visitors speak for themselves. So this is just a selection of the many words of thanks and appreciation we get from the community who have come on tours. So the work you are all doing is very important, yet most of us never think about it. The tour did a nice job of helping us be connected to the water we use. That I chose because it speaks to making the invisible visible. We never think about it because we don't have to because of all the work that we're doing behind the scenes, but this lets people take that knowledge into their use of water at home and in their daily lives. Thank you very much for your expertise, passion, and knowledge that you shared with us. You really made the tour work because of your delivery and knowledge in the overall process, and lining up the electricians was really icing on the cake. This, if you couldn't tell, was from an electrical apprentice instructor who really wanted that tailored experience to that group's interests. This speaks to the ambassadorship of tours and that the district can really put its best face forward on tours and share, we have here passion for what we do. We care about clean water. And for me personally, leading tours is one of the most rewarding parts of my job because you can see ideas click with people. And they say, I never knew that. I never knew I shouldn't flush that. I'm going to go check out my water softener. Those are just a few examples that we can make those direct connections to get people to change their water uses, change their perspective about water and infrastructure. I appreciate the continued commitment to educating the public about not only what happens at Nine Springs, but also the focus on helping the community on what they can do to be good stewards of our water resources. So again, instilling water stewardship values and actions in our community. And just a few more images to reinforce that. We have stacks of these thank you notes from all kinds of different tour visitors. They really appreciate coming on tours, getting this educational experience. On the left, there are Post-its of water commitments. So we had tour visitors write down something that they were going to do in their personal lives to protect water. So really internalizing and carrying over those lessons that we talk about on tours. So I'll close my piece of this presentation by just saying that tours are a way that the district can reach our community, can reinforce our performance indicators. We've had tens of thousands of people visit here at the plant, but we're currently working to expand that reach and achieve those same outcomes by reaching more people out in the community, so it's not just here at the plant, but across our broader collection system. So I will turn it over to Catherine Harris.
I have a question.
Oh, sure.
So Shop One, that was supposed to be kind of a one water kind of building. I don't know. The first time I was in it was last December when we were doing our interviews. And is there anything projected to use that more for tours? Because it seemed like it, or maybe it's just big tour groups, I don't know.
Yes.
Speak to what the purpose of that space is?
Yes, so Shop One is the meeting point for all of our tours. It is our connection to the community. So that is where we engage groups.
I thought maybe there would be more there at the beginning of a tour, but you save it more for the end for the fishermen.
Well, the project that we have ongoing right now is upgrades to the effluent building in the fish room, and that is why we highlighted that part of the tour. We can highlight additional parts of the tour in the future, if you want.
So thank you for the presentation. I think that this is a really important part of community outreach, and we talked a little bit about that yesterday, and so I think that's good. But I have kind of a wild idea. And have you ever thought about using community volunteers in the tour program? For example, having wastewater treatment ambassadors who could, you know, come and greet tours, maybe kind of take them through the different stations, for example, and have the experts then talk a little bit. It might save you guys some time and get the community even more involved. So I just thought I'd throw out that idea.
Thank you. So we have experimented with a variety of different approaches to our tour program. And about 5-6 years ago, we started using community members as tour guides. So we had external tour guides for a period of time. We have transitioned back to staff being mainly running the tour program for a couple of reasons. One was running a volunteer program sounds great, except for their volunteers, and you have to get them here when you need to. And even if you pay them, it's still a management challenge to make sure that if we only need them a couple hours a month or once every 6 months, it's hard to get people here when the tour group needs to be here, but that's something we could overcome. The second piece I thought turned out to be even more important, in that one thing that Emily mentioned, that this is one of the more rewarding parts of work, and having our staff, who most of the staff that are here for more than a paycheck. They're here because they believe in the mission of the district and what we do and why we do what we do, and being able to share that with people and have their own connection on what their job is, why they do that, what's really interesting about their job, and see people's face light up because of the work they do, has really improved job satisfaction and other things for district staff. But it is something we can continue to evaluate, and when we look at programs like what Catherine's going to be speaking to next, I think this also has connections there.
So as Emily mentioned, the tours have been really impactful over the years. You saw the impressions from visitors. We have an opportunity through partnership with the Madison Public Market to expand that kind of enthusiasm, intrigue, curiosity, far beyond folks who are already engaged and coming here to the plant. Thank you. The Madison Public Market partnership to activate the bathrooms with educational design is an innovative project that is meant to bring awareness to the work we do here, awareness to our critical wastewater treatment, conveyance, and resource recovery systems that the district operates. And importantly, this is probably a theme that you're picking up on by now, the people behind wastewater jobs. So really highlighting our essential community services we provide. The Madison Public Market is promising to be a very bustling hub for our community, a resource and an asset that will be a gathering place, an incubator for businesses open year-round, and it's going to have, they're estimating about 500,000 visitors per year. This is a chance to really reach folks in a way that's novel and they might not be expecting to think about wastewater in that moment. The public market itself has a pretty cool wastewater connection. Geographically, it is right next to the district's pumping station number 1 on the corner of Johnson and First. And it's the site of Madison's very first wastewater treatment plant, which is opened in 1899. If you haven't already seen Paul Name's blogs about that history, it's very cool. I recommend it. So that's the connection to the site. What we're planning on doing there, the idea is really to have a public service announcement, a PSA, that is all about wastewater in the place where, for folks who don't work here, wastewater and the bathroom is the salient place where they might actually have some chance of making a connection, right? So the plan is to design the bathrooms in a way that they become educational learning lavatories, infusing novelty, surprising people, maybe sparking some curiosity. We can create a greater sense of awareness and appreciation for wastewater infrastructure, and not to mention really instilling those right choices that we want people to be making when they are in the bathroom behind a closed door where no one can see what they're doing. The first floor will have the theme, Where Will You Go? And it's kind of a dual meaning here, right? Tapping on the natural curiosity that we see in kids especially. What happens when you flush the toilet? Where does it go? Where will you go is, it's alluding to kind of a choose-your-own-adventure type journey you can take into this bathroom stall area. So the stalls, there's 7 individual stalls, and each of these colorful pipes on the outside, this is the entrance area on the first floor, each of these colorful pipes will lead into a different room, one of the 7 bathrooms, and each of those rooms has a different theme. So the themes will guide folks through a wastewater treatment and resource recovery process. So it will have, I just have one kind of example up in the upper left. That's going to be pipes, and the bathroom's talking about the miles and miles of pipes, over 100 miles of pipes that are buried beneath the ground that people walk over, drive over every day, and maybe don't even think about. That's the theme in that bathroom. But each of these 7 stalls is going to have very different things going on, including One Water and the journey that water takes, how it's all connected. Upstairs, there's 7 more bathrooms that are all individual stalls, and these are meant to be like little houses. So when you go into this home, maybe like when you're going into your own home, you can make some choices about what you do with water and how you use the wastewater system. The upstairs is kind of welcome to the can, and it's on things that people can do to protect, conserve, reflect the value of water. So here's an example of a can stall. You can up your flush game, the champion flusher stall with the golden toilet trophy room. So this is just one example, but there's 7 stalls, and I love that everyone's laughing here. Just let it out, because that's the whole goal here, is to make it something fun and memorable. The themes beyond champion flusher will have a room that's about advocacy and civic participation, safe chemical disposal, med drop, conservation, water savings, district careers, and salt reduction. So really directly tied to our pollution prevention messages and to, of course, tours. There's definitely going to be a big shout out to tours in here. And in addition to the physical infrastructure, here the paint on the walls and the posters that will be hung up, there will also be a web component. So visitors who are interested in the public market and are visiting the public market website can also experience the bathrooms through that way. The public market is really excited about this partnership, and we're looking forward to welcoming a delegation from the International Public Market. Sorry, I'm going to misspeak on the name. The International Public Market Convention that's happening in Milwaukee this weekend. Public market will be open later this year, and we are going to be working with the staff of the Public Market Foundation to have some welcoming ceremonies, some behind the scenes, hopefully sneak peek previews once everything is installed for our staff and sewage district community. So stay tuned for that.
Anybody else have any other comments or observations? No? Okay, well, thank you very much for the presentations. Let's see, that will take us to the Executive Director update. Eric?
Thank you, Eric Dundee, Executive Director. So 2 items today. One, kind of related to the CMAR, but for 2025, we did have a treatment facility overflow on Tuesday, June 3rd. You will hear more about that at the next meeting in the operations report. But basically, that was a overflow based on the digester cleaning work. The contractor had a hose blow and malfunction, so struvite sand solids hit the ground, so we are going to report that. Second one is, I'm actually going to turn it over to Amanda to talk about the legislative efforts that we've done, and as a partnership, had a little bit of success. So Amanda, go ahead.
Thanks, Eric. Amanda Wagner, Communications and Public Affairs Director here at the district. So we've been kind of bringing you along over the last year and a half, but we're a member of a group called the Clean Water Fund Coalition that includes ourselves, the Green Bay Sewerage District, Milwaukee, MEG, the League, a couple other organizations, and just really working to, as you know, there's been a shortfall in Clean Water Fund loan funding. And so as a group, we've been working to talk with legislators, work with the DNR, DOA in some respects, to see what we can do to make sure that there is sufficient Clean Water Fund loans available. That Clean Water Fund loan actually those loans come through Revenue Obligation Bonding Authority, through the Environmental Improvement Fund. And because I'm bearing the lead here, last week, the Joint Finance Committee voted unanimously on a request that was put into the budget, the governor's budget, and that we have been championing as part of the coalition, approving $732 million increase in that revenue obligation bonding. So those funds, as you know, support wastewater infrastructure, but also on the drinking water side through the Safe Water Drinking Water Loan Program. So this is super exciting, but the JFC, the Joint Finance Committee, is just one step in the process. So this gets it into the biennial budget, which will continue to advance through state government. So we're not all the way over the finish line, but this was a huge step, a huge win for the work of the group, and particularly just excited that this is just continuing to move forward and just gives us a little bit more. What is the word I'm looking for? Makes us feel a little bit better going into the final rounds of the budget here, just knowing that's in there. So we did send an email to our customer communities, and commissioners were included on that last week. And when the budget is done, we will know how it's gone. So just excited to share that.
I thought Eric. No, I thought you had 3 items on the MG&E. Oh, that one, Zoom. I thought I hit the button. Okay, that takes us to. Ezra's not here, but Brad or Ken, do either of you have anything to report from the personnel? Have you guys met since next meeting?
Yeah, we've got another meeting coming up in I guess it's the 24th. So,
okay.
I'll go ahead and take this report. The meeting is, the 24th. What'll be happening there is, not just work for the, continuing process on the annual review for the executive director, but also, they'll be meeting my executive coach. As part of the transition, to be new executive director, executive coaching, was part of it. So they'll meet them and then, be asked some questions and talk about the review process, a 360-degree review process that I'll be going through to do baseline. And then there'll be a few commissioners here, that will be getting that survey. Not all, but, just a few for a touch point. So that's the report.
Okay. Ken, did you have something to add?
Yeah, our meeting on the 30th of May, bulk of what we did is review the scoring and interview process for the consultant to help us together the process for the review of the executive.
Thank you. Greg, anything on finance?
Yeah, we have met, I think, twice since our last commission meeting, and we have made some pretty good progress. We have now finished reviewing all of the reserve policies that the district had, and we have proposed language. I believe Bill has been so kind as to write up a report for me that we are going to give, I think in July sometime is what we agreed to.
Hopefully July. It all depends on how quickly I can work. I will do my best.
So it has been a good process. I think we've made some pretty good progress. Patrick, did you want to?
And we're on to actually looking at the rest of the policy dealing with finance.
Okay.
That's our next
Okay.
step.
Good.
So
So you got all the reserve policies and you're moving on to the others. Okay. And then at we'll hear a report maybe in July, but then is that the time frame for action on the policies, or are you going to do them all at once? So, like do the reserve and then do what the next, or is that's not been decided?
I think the goal was to get the reserve policies done in July, so the team could use them in setting up the 26 budget process.
Okay.
And then as we get through the other stuff, we'll come back to the commission.
Right.
With different updates.
Okay, so in July, we'll be acting on amending the reserve policy.
I think that's the target, yeah. Yep.
Okay, good. Okay, thank you. Paul, regulatory and legal?
Yes, as Amanda indicated, we're in the midst of budget season, which means not a lot of other things happen at the legislature, but a couple of bills have been introduced. We have them in the report. One of the kind of the continuing restriction on the rulemaking process. There's a number of bills to further encumber that, so that's probably worth noting. But I think probably on other fronts, not a lot is happening. Their facility planning rule that we had mentioned before was a second meeting held on May 27th. That will continue to be an important one for us to monitor because all of the facility planning that we do goes through that rule process. Other than that, PFAS and a number of other things are pretty much on hold at this point. About all I have, and there's no, I guess the other thing I should just note is there are no new developments with respect to the Badger Mill.
Future meeting schedules in the packet, so there's no closed session today. One thing, we did get a bit of idea on future agenda topics, the finance stuff, but for those that weren't at the session yesterday, the report is expected to come out about a month. So the facilitator was gonna prepare it and then send it off to staff to what they do, and then so we should be getting that right after the 4th, I guess, not before. Okay, anything else? Okay, hearing none. Ken?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion by Commissioner Clark, second by Commissioner Freeze to adjourn. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, none. Motion carries. Thank you all very much.